Welcome to Todd's World, the home improvement show. This is a brand new podcast that we're just starting on Todd's World. We already have multiple podcasts. We have the Wildly Opinionated News Hour, which is basically news and politics. We go through a lot of clips. We have a lot of fun. If you think back to like your Rush Limbaugh types, maybe the Howard Stern Show and Robin, but just the news, if you could pull out all the kind of raunchy stuff, but just the news, they were really good at it. And Carrie, my co-host, joins me for that. That's kind of the vibe you're getting. It's just it's fun, a little bit of it's somewhat lighthearted, but yeah, we get into some serious news of the day, and we just kind of tackle it all. So I hope you join us for that. We've got Beers with Jesus, and now we've got a brand new show. And I can't tell you how excited I am about it. So anyway, I hope you join us. So the way that we're doing this, at least this week, I haven't decided for sure on this one. I'm going to drop this one on Thursday. I haven't decided for sure. I'm going to vacillate between Mondays and Thursdays. For right now, we'll do Thursdays. So we've got Wildly Opinionated News Hour on Tuesdays, Beers with Jesus, which you absolutely... Carrie joins me for that one as well. I'm telling you, it's not your typical kind of Christian podcast. I think you might enjoy it. Got a Todd's World flair. But point is, we get the two things you're not supposed to talk about are politics and religion, and we cover both of those absolutely fine. So what I'm looking for in this, the other thing that I've done throughout my life is I'm a builder. And I've been a builder for probably 30 years now. Long time. Started out... Just to give you my background. So this show, this home improvement show, it's not going to be how-to. I'm not going to be out there fiddling with a wrench, showing you how to do something. They're all over YouTube already. Guys are doing it. They're doing a fine job. And that's not my thing. My thing is I do podcasts. I talk to you guys. We communicate, right? So we're going to talk about what has been the rest of my life, which is building, home improvements, home improvement project, really anything. So many things can fall under home improvements. The one thing I can tell you, there's not going to be any of. There's not going to be any news and politics unless it's home improvement type of news, and there's not going to be any religion because we cover those both on the other podcast, and I hope that we do them in such a way that it's different than what a lot of people are doing and that you enjoy it. So this one is going to be completely devoid of those. So we're just going to kind of see where things go. As far as my background, for a long time, I sold and built modular homes. Now, not double wides with the steel frames and stuff, or single wides, that kind of thing. These were kind of your stick-built modulars that you bring in, you set up in sections. The simplest ones have 2. Some of them would have 4. Some of them would have 8. I mean, they build... Back in the day, they were building... modulars that had all kinds of different sections. That kind of calmed down. You don't see as much of it. It's still out there, but you don't see as much of it as you did back in, I would say, the kind of mid 90s, 2000s. And I think the housing crash kind of hurt some of that. But they're still out there. Again, I'm not saying that modulars don't have their place. They do. I moved from that into custom building. I really enjoyed custom building. And then we also do remodeling, maybe a little smaller and medium-sized projects, even larger projects. So it'd be home additions, decks, finished painting, all kinds of things, really. So my expertise is wide and varied. But anyway, what this show's about, what I kind of pictured it when I thought about it, is I pictured... I don't know if you guys, but not that I lived this or experienced it, but that back in the, I don't know when, maybe the 1800s, the 19th century or something, but you had kind of the general stores in town, or maybe you had just a tavern in town, and the people would get together, guys would get together at the end of the day, and they'd get together, they'd be, gather around the old potbelly stove, and they'd just talk some shop. Maybe it was hunting season and they were talking hunting. Who knows what was going on? And this will be that kind of a show, I hope. I hope that you'll just join me every week. It's going to be on the shorter side. We're only going to do about a half hour. And that maybe as you're working on some of your home improvements. Maybe you've got your AirPods in or whatever, and you're listening to me, and we're talking, and we're having a good time. Maybe you're thinking about some home improvements. Maybe we hit on something. This will be a show where I will welcome any comments, any questions that you have. I can't say that I'm going to be able to answer all the questions, or that I'll necessarily be even able to look at all the comments or whatever. But I will go through them, and we'll hash some of them out, and I'll give you at least my opinions on it. Not that my opinions are perfect, but I have opinions. I have opinions, plenty of opinions on building. Like I said, that's been and I come from a long line of carpenters. I had 3 different uncles who were builders and carpenters as their primary trade. My grandpa was a carpenter by trade. So, and then probably my great grandpa and things, but we don't go back quite that far. So I don't know. They came from Canada. These days, who knows with the Canadians? I'm just kidding, guys. I said no politics. And Carrie's going to be holding me to it. She's going to be watching these. And she's going to be like, you said no politics. So, do I have opinions on building? Yeah. I mean, we've gone through the Biden years, and building has gotten horrendously expensive. But then everything's gotten expensive. Look at what eggs did. So it's just everything. Really, actually, when you think of it from some of those angles, like eggs, and how much they jumped, how quickly, building and housing hasn't done that. We've seen a lot of jumps in costs, whether it be labor, whether it be materials and things like that. Maybe some of those will start to come down. I'm hopeful that that with some of Trump's policies, that maybe some of that is gonna switch up. And that we'll start to see maybe the cost of lumber come down as we start to do more of that in country, where we don't have any tariffs at all. We're not shipping anything over and whatever. So who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I mean, Dave Ramsey's kind of the classic finance guy, and his thing is that we're not probably going to see housing ever in our lives come down substantially and stay down cost-wise, and there's probably truth in that. We all lived through 2008, 2009, 2010, and those things went down for a little while, but they popped back up. And you look at where we're at now, and if you look at just a little longer range trajectory, we're about on it. So if you're looking at things, building to me it's obviously not for everybody. It's a hassle. It's a stress. I mean, it is. In your best case scenario, if you're considering building, I mean, and listen, most people don't have this best case scenario, and we don't all get to live in best case scenarios. It'd be great if we did. But in a best case scenario, you're in a position where you have a home, you can build kind of your dream home, and yet still stay where you're at. Where I've seen people get into the most problems is when they get into kind of a situation where they've sold their house, they got to sell their house in order to build their next house, and in order to finance the whole thing. So everything's kind of tight to begin with, and then it becomes even tighter as they're trying to build this house. Or maybe they sell their other house first, and then they don't have a good place to live. And then you get some people who are like, I'll live in a trailer on the property. And anytime I've seen any of that thing, those types of things happen, they've never gone well. It's best off with any home improvement project, building, whatever it is. It's best if you can enter it in a position to be able to have not a lot of stress in your life associated, because the building process, I mean, it is stressful. I mean, it's stressful being a builder because you're trying to coordinate everything, get the materials there on time, and invariably things go wrong. They just do. And what your job is as a builder is to solve those problems, reintegrate, get another schedule. But you're constantly dealing with subs, subcontractors. They've got a schedule. They're ready to go. Now, one delay cascades all through. And so that's a lot of what builders deal with. Your bigger builders who go in and they have their neighborhoods and they're pounding things up, they've got their systems down to where it's not as bad. They don't let you make as many changes, and that works for some people. It keeps things on a tighter schedule for them. It enables them to control their costs, control their time frames more, and it does make sense. It's a little less like building your own house. I mean, you are getting a new home, which is good. And generally, I mean, different builders are different, but I think generally, bigger builders are putting out a product it's at least decent. I mean, some of them might be lower, maybe mid to lower level construction in some ways. Where might you see that? I don't know. Sometimes in like heating systems, you'll go into some of these, I call them big box builders. Call them whatever you want. But where you go in and they got flex duct running everywhere. And again, I'm not saying any of that doesn't work. It'll heat your house, but it's just not, it's a less expensive way to do things. It's probably not going to last as long as something that's normal tin ducted out and, kind of your typical construction type of thing. So anyway, that's one thing that we can talk about is all of the various things that go into that. It's spring now, which is awesome. So people are thinking, anytime it starts to warm up, starts to be spring, people start looking around and they're like, oh, it's time to get some projects going. And which is perfect. I think that's great, especially in these northern climates. Obviously, that may be reversed down south. It may be that in the heat of summer in Florida, you're not trying to get a whole lot done outside. But up here in northern climates, as we get through winter, and you can obviously do stuff all winter. People do put foundations in the winter. I mean, it's not like it necessarily holds up. It does make things a little more difficult. Usually, it doesn't make things a ton more costly because a lot of builders, in order to stay busy during the winter, you get a little bit better deal as you're working through those months. Depending on the labor markets, everything else. Right now, it's probably hard to find good people. My guess would be that a lot of people feel that way. They think, oh, how do you find it? How do you find a good builder? And one of the things I tell people when it comes to finding a good builder, that is something, people will tell you should get references, you should check this, they should be licensed. All those things are good. Absolutely. They're not guarantees. I think that, but they weed some people out. I mean, if you run a guy through a builder's license class for 6 weeks and then he can pass the test, is he a builder? Well, no. He does know some of the legal ends, and he has been exposed to some of the right framing methods and fastening methods, things like that. But it's hard to have much. It's hard to beat experience. I mean, that's true. That's true in any part of life. It's hard to beat experience. And so if you can find somebody who's been at it for a while, who's seen a lot of different things, but the other thing that I think is big, especially for home projects, is somebody that you're comfortable with. Because I go into people's homes. I'll give you an example. I did one, and it was, I don't know how, maybe a 3-week project. And we were doing a bunch of drywall fixing. It's kind of a vaulted ceiling. The home had been there 25, 30 years, so it'd been there for a little while. And they'd had some drywall cracks along their vaulted ceiling, and both along the peak and along the side. So I mean, to correctly fix those, it's kind of a big project. And then we're going to paint, finish paint everything after we get it all done. And so it's kind of a lot to do. But point is that you're in someone's home for 3 weeks. And so personally, I usually get to be pretty kind of good friends / acquaintances with my customers because I'm spending a fair amount of time with them and I'm seeing them. And what I think is important that maybe people don't put enough weight on is somebody that you enjoy, somebody that you like. Because they could be at your house. Let's say it's a little bigger project and they're going to be there 6 weeks or 8 weeks. They're going to be coming and going. You want somebody who you feel good about, who when you see, you're like, oh, they're here, that's cool, we get along good. A builder, in my opinion, should do everything they can to kind of minimize the disruption to the home and to the customer that they're working for as much as possible. Just minimize. When you're working, I'm talking about like a remodel or repainting or something like that. But when you're working for somebody like that, you want to minimize the disruption into their life as much as you can. Listen, some things are just flat out disruptive. There's not much you can do. If you're tearing out a kitchen, you're redoing a kitchen, it's disruptive. It's great when you get to the other end, but there's some pain to get there. And everybody knows that. Everybody involved is completely on board with that. But to the extent that you can minimize the pain for the customer, and you can also, you're minimizing disruption and pain for yourself by just kind of trying to keep them appraised of the schedule. If you're running, if something's running a week behind, let people know. Communication's really important. So you want somebody who you get along with, and you feel like is a good communicator. Referrals are awesome if you can get personal referrals. They really are. And references can be good too. It just depends. So I have no problem giving out references. I have lots of great customers that I still go back and do work for. That's the great thing about doing some of the smaller projects, remodeling stuff, is that at least I do. I will go and help out a customer for a day and do some things that maybe builders don't usually do, that are a little more, I don't know, maybe a little more handyman-ish. There's some smaller projects. But sometimes it's hard for people to find good people like that. And a lot of builders don't want to screw around with that. And I enjoy going back and seeing my customers again, spending 5 hours with them. Sure, you're not making a ton of money on it. But you're helping them out, and you're kind of keeping those relationships going. So I enjoy that. And I think that's important. I think it's worth maybe more weight to the process of choosing a contractor, or, a painter, drywaller, carpenter, whatever you're working with. Not a lot of people do all of those. When you can find somebody who can do multiple things, especially on smaller projects, that's kind of nice. It's nice when you don't have to, generally it keeps the cost down a little bit if you don't have to call a plumber in all the time. You don't have to call a separate electrician. And now we're talking about relatively minor things. If you're getting into moving baths and whatever, in my opinion, you get a plumber, because they're licensed, they know what they're doing. Electricians, same way. I don't like to get into people's panels. If we're just moving a few outlets here and there, a little bit of monkey work, that's not that big of a deal, and we can help people with that. But anything that involves, or it depends if you got to get a permit. That will also impact whether or not you're going to be required to use licensed people for that kind of thing. And whether or not you need a permit or have to have a permit is going to be somewhat locality dependent. Different inspectors in different states and in different areas are a little different in how they, how big of sticklers they are, how much has to be done. A lot of places you don't need a permit to redo a kitchen. I don't know if you get to some place like California if that's true or not. I really have no idea. I know that in Michigan you can redo a kitchen as long as you're not moving plumbing all over and moving electric all over and everything. You're pretty much good. Just replace cabinets and go, because you're not dealing with anything structural, not dealing with anything that people have to be concerned about. So I just kind of work with people on that. Is they're relying on you to say, hey, do we need a permit for this? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And it's not always perfectly cut and dry, but usually you have a pretty good idea. So, and a good builder will. So that's just one example of some of the things we're going to talk about on this. And this podcast is going to range all over the place. So, who knows what we'll talk about. But I hope that you guys will join me week to week as we go for about a half hour. And we just kind of get together and talk about what's going on. Talk about re-siding maybe. What's popular in siding right now that I think is cool? If you get into the vinyl siding, they've got a lot of the board and batten and stuff. And the board and batten, the cedar accents, all of that stuff looks good. My wife Nikki was just telling me last week how much she really likes the new black look on houses, where you've got black siding and black soffit and fascia and black windows, and then for accents they use those cedar tones, and then a lot of times you'll have like a cedar porch or whatever and cedar columns, and it just has a really nice look. It really kind of pops. So it'd be interesting to see. I like that look too. I've wondered if it'll be kind of a lasting classic look, and Nikki thinks, oh yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be as classic and lasting as, well, I don't know if it'll be as classic and lasting as white. I don't know if anything is. But now that they've got better processes, a lot of people, for a long time you couldn't get really dark vinyl siding because it would fade. But the siding manufacturers have gotten their processes down now to where I think you get minimal fading, and you can get some of these darker, richer colors, and that's why you see them on so many houses now, and they look so nice. A facelift is a big thing. People always ask, or part of when they're looking at home improvements and things, they think, well, am I going to sell the house? How much am I going to get out of it money-wise? This, that, and the other. And that's, of course, a reasonable thing to think about. I'm not saying that, but I wonder sometimes we put too much weight into it. If you're living at your home Like, if you want a new kitchen, or you want a new bathroom, or new flooring, new paint job, whatever it is, maybe a new facelift for the outside, maybe you want a porch. But part of it should be for how you want to live. Like, I want to put a front porch on so I can sit on that front porch and I can get out a little bit. I can get outside and kind of get back to the days when people used to sit on their front porch and relax and talk to people and not be on their screen constantly. Or you can sit on your front porch and be on your screen too, but you know what I'm saying. So I just think when we look at return on investment, ROIs, all those kinds of things, that's one factor. It's not the biggest factor. In my opinion, one of the biggest factors should be, what do you want? How do you live? How do you want what you're going to do? You know, you get a fresh paint job, it brightens up everything. We fixed these cracks and we did a fresh paint job in this home that was, 30 years old. All of a sudden, this home, I mean, it looks 20 years newer. It brightens everything inside. I mean, it looks brand new from inside when you're looking at everything. You've still got some older cabinets and whatever, but still, it's such a nice lift, and it kind of brightens everything up. And so painting's a good one. It's not horribly expensive, but kitchen remodels are great. Who doesn't love a kitchen remodel and get a big island someplace, especially if you don't like have an island or whatever. Maybe you got an older style kitchen, and somewhat with kitchens, you have to work with what you have if you don't want to get into big additions and things. But then additions are great too. You get more living area, the family can get together, you can get more of the family together. So there's so many different things that can be done, and we do have we need more tradespeople. You're going to hear that a lot, and that's probably something we'll talk about on here too. We need more people going into the trades who are good people, good builders, good plumbers, good electricians, and you can make good money doing it. And good siding crews, all those kinds of things. So I would hope that people would encourage their kids, because not all kids should go to college. I mean, clearly, some kids are not destined to be accountants or lawyers. They're destined. They enjoy working with their hands. They enjoy building, and those kinds of people are so important for what they're doing for people. When you have somebody come into your home who's professional, who's good to get along with, who knows what they're doing, who wants to do the best job for you. I mean, after you're done with the project, you get what you want. One of the big things is, not having just open-ended things. You'd like to have a price that it's best if you can agree on a price ahead of time with somebody and just say, listen, what are we going to have into this? I'm not a big fan of time and material for anything other than, your smaller stuff, handyman type stuff. I just think it can get out of control on people. And whenever I've done that with contractors or subcontractors, I don't know. It hasn't always gone the best. It depends on what you're dealing with, and obviously every situation is different. And as far as DIY stuff, we'll talk about some of that. And sometimes it works. Again, it's very individual dependent, whether or not the DIY thing. Like, are you capable? Are you handy? Can you learn pretty fast? As you're starting to put something together, can you watch a YouTube video on how to build a deck? Call the inspector, make sure that you're doing things the right way, as far as construction wise, getting your holes deep enough, getting your footings right size, getting everything, One of the most dangerous things that you'll find when you go to building classes or whatever is decks that just fall down on people. A deck will be built, and all of a sudden they'll pile 20 or 30 people on a deck, and it'll just collapse because it wasn't built right. It wasn't made for that kind of weight, and you can have people get hurt that way really badly. So it's real important, decks especially, but I mean in general, it's important to build things the right way. It's important to, and I don't mean necessarily overbuild. I think one of the signs that you're dealing with a builder who isn't all that great is when you walk in and they got 45 nails in a spot where they maybe needed 5. Because you think, maybe you don't exactly know what you're doing. So it's nice when you see a guy and you're like, okay, they know what they're doing. They're not they don't just trying to figure it out as they go like a puzzle, So anyway, that's just an introduction into this show, the Home Improvement Show. We're gonna do them weekly, and as we get into them, like I said, it's kind of like sitting around the old potbelly stove, and we're just gonna talk, have some beers. Dependent, I didn't have any today, but next time, beers with Jesus, beers with Home Improvement. Really, can you ever go wrong with beers? Anyway. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me today. Log into Todd's World. Check out our other shows if you haven't. And toddsworld.net is our store. I've got books. I do a lot of writing. I just put out a new novel called 9 Mile Point that's available on Amazon under Todd Allen. So multiple books. Leaves That Blew Away, 9 Mile Point, Insurrection Season 1, Witness Season 1. Check them out. If you enjoy reading, if you enjoy fiction, Leaves That Blew Away is a memoir, but if you enjoy fiction, you'll enjoy it. And then, some of the writing, you'll find us on Substack, on the socials, at Todd's World 2023. On TikTok, I think for this show, I started a separate one. So I'm trying on TikTok to do, I have a Todd's World Beers, which is Todd's World Beers with Jesus. We've got a Todd's World News, which is more wildly opinionated news hour, and then Todd's World Home Improvement Show. So, maybe politics and religion aren't your thing. You just want to get together, you just want to hang, you want to talk about, work, talk about projects, talk about whatever else is out there. There's time and a place. I think we focus too much, certainly on politics, and news dominates too much of our life. So let's get back, and then this way, maybe you're a lib. You're going to find out I'm conservative if you look at any of our other shows. But that's okay. When it comes to building, when it comes to doing projects, when it comes to whatever, we aren't stuck with those political things. Don't really mean much. We're all Americans. We all love America. Like, we want to build something. Let's get together and do the best we can. Let's fix something for somebody. Let's not let all these things like separate us and divide us. I don't think that's right. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed Todd's World, the home improvement show. Hopefully they'll only get better. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.